series at the Worcester Art Museum, hosted by the Worcester Art Members Council, gives a closer look at one or two works by 7 signature artists. Exhibited in a variety of galleries throughout the museum, these intimate displays allow for contemplation and study of some of the world's most celebrated artists. Every third Thursday of the month, Worcester Art Museum is hosting these presentations, a reception featuring music, light refreshments, a cash bar, and the company of other art enthusiasts. The first of these series was held on September 15, 2016, in which speaker Dr. Vishakha Desai, Special Advisor for Global Affairs to the President of Columbia University, and adjunct professor at the School of International and Public Affairs, spoke about the figurative and the narrative in courtly and contemporary art of India. Here are a few glimpses from that evening.
Becomes much more popular. The reason why I wanted to show you this is that I think this exception of having individualized portraits, and in this case every single name is written in the little turbans, so you know exactly who they are. And on the basis of who they are and what they look like, although they are actually, the faces are done from traces of portraits and put in here. In other words, the artist didn't actually sat there and copied everybody when they were sitting there. He just knew where they were. He had their samples and the faces, and he attached them onto the figures. But the reality is that it was important to know who they are. And here, one thing that I should say is that for a long time, historians talked a lot about the fact that Mughal court was so open and Jesuits had undue influence. They had so much influence that people thought that Jahangir or Akbar might even become Christians. And I just look at this picture and I say, okay, so where is that Jesuit priest? You see him? With the black hat down below? Okay, so he is standing next to the man who's the head of stables. Not so important. So he's right here. All the important guys are over there. Not you. And that tells you something that, yes, he was interested. The emperors were interested in learning about lots of things, but they were not so easily movable to just say, okay, I'm going to just completely become something else. And so all of these are ways of understanding hierarchy, understanding ways of the story. So this actually also comes from the story of Jahangir's life, that he had gotten written and then depicted in his lifetime. So each one of these pictures also tell us something about the context, who is important, who is not, how they actually thought about the stories, what was worth depicting, and all of these would have been decided by the chief librarian and the chronicler of the Mughal court, and then work with the painters. So the portraiture tradition really begins in a way with the Mughal tradition of the 16th and the early 17th century. You have some amazing portraits like this, which is of a great such a thing had happened at the royal level, for which he got certain amount of scorn, and then other people started doing that as well. So this is also another kind of the Hindu-Muslim relationship that comes through when you see a portrait like this. But there is no portrait more significant, I believe, or poignant or powerful than this small drawing, again in the Museum of Fine Arts collection, Boston, of a young, not a young man, but middle-aged man, who served at the court of Jahangir. And he he had just been 2 weeks before this portrait was taken, he was promoted to being the Paymaster General of the Special Corps of Imperial Servants. And we know a lot about him because Jahangir writes in his diary what happened. And he says, on this day, news came of the death of Inayat Khan. And then he goes on to describe the appearance and condition of this man in great detail. And he says, some days before this, he had petitioned that he might go to Agra. I asked them to bring him to me so he could get the permission in person. And then he goes on to say, they put him in a palanquin and brought him. He appeared so low and weak that I was astonished. He was skin drawn over bones, or rather, his bones too had dissolved. Though painters have striven much in drawing an emaciated face, I have never seen anything like this, nor anything even approaching to this. Good God, can a son of man come to such shape and fashion? As it was a very extraordinary case, I directed painters to take his portrait. That very moment, meaning Jahangir is somewhere, painters are there, he asked them to paint his portrait. Next day, he traveled the road of non-existence. Now you might say, for the emperor, why is he so taken with this man? This man was an opium addict and had trouble with alcohol. So did the emperor. And we know that later on in his life, this is about, we're not sure, 1610, by 1620, Jahangir is so addled that he's not able to function, and it is his wife who actually takes care of the business. So you know that there is something very personal about seeing this, and somewhere feeling like, oh my God, would this happen to me as well?